Thanks everybody for being here at this time of the day after a long day. I'm Rubery, Executive Director of the Work Inequalities Institute and coordinator of this network, WorkNet International. I'm extraordinarily pleased to welcome you all, in particular the close to 40 representatives of the WorkNet International member centres and institutes who travel to Manchester. You're all sitting around the front here. Some have come across continents to attend this formal launch of WorkNet International, and we feel really honoured that you've made that effort in January, and hopefully feel, as I do, that the opportunity to meet in person, to forge and reinforce our personal connections that are so important for any network, and to enable us to start the planning of our activities has been very much worth the effort. I think we had a great business meeting this afternoon, and we're really making progress. Many of you here have listened to and participated in the panel sessions and therefore already heard about the research of WorkNet International and its aspirations to shape both academic and policy debates for the future of work and employment. However, for the benefit of those who just joined us, let me just repeat a little bit, bear with me. WorkNet International was set up to connect centres and institutes dedicated to interdisciplinary and comparative research on work and employment. It currently has 31 members, spanning North America, China, Korea, Europe and Africa, and representatives of 26 of these members are sitting here in the first 3 rows of this lecture theatre. This is not a closed network, but once we had invited 30 centres and institutes to join, and all had said yes, we decided to call a temporary halt to further invitations, to give us time to start the real work of setting up the network. We intend to expand the network further in the future, though at a controlled rate, and particularly by extending our geographical reach, which we recognise, even so, is not as wide as it should be. We provided you all with leaflets. I'm not certain. I'll make certain our guests who just joined us have the leaflet and a link to our webpage where you can read about the purpose and added value of the network and the motivations for setting it up. And that webpage has now gone live, and that's great news. But rather than just repeat that material, I thought I would give you some insights into why setting up this network has been important to me personally, and how I hope it will help ensure both that the work and employment research can continue to flourish, and that early career researchers in particular have the similar opportunities to those that I have enjoyed. I think there are 4 ways in which the formation of this network is linked to my own personal research journey, if you bear with me. First, research by WorkNet International is characterised by interdisciplinary and international comparative perspectives to reflect the really multifaceted roles that work and employment play in the society and economy. Now, I myself benefited greatly from a genuinely interdisciplinary education in economics at Cambridge, before the curriculum was narrowed down and courses connecting economics to history, politics and sociology were effectively narrowed and really cancelled. Also, while working as an early career researcher at Cambridge, I co-founded with colleagues now 45 years ago a network of international comparative research on labour market segmentation. At this time, that was rather innovative. After that time, there became many more groups doing comparative research. But it's important that one of the first centres to do the work and employment comparative research, the LES Centre in Aix-en-Provence, is in fact a member of the WorkNet International. The network I formed, the International Working Party on Labour Market Segmentation, still holds an annual conference and started me on my journey of exploring the mutual interactions between work and employment, not only with the systems of production, which is in a way where the economists tend to be focused, but also with welfare state, the education training system, family and gender relations, and of course the political system and associated distribution of power and resources. So all of that interdisciplinary and international research was very central to my development. But the second aim is to extend the impact of work and employment research on policy debates and policy actions. And my interest in policy was a large part of my own motivation to research on work and employment. I was a lead author of a book on why we needed a national minimum wage back in 1982. Now, this impact of this book was definitely a slow burn, as it took another 16 years before a national minimum wage was introduced. But I think we did start to change the debate, particularly among trade union circles, because people may not know that in the 1970s, trade unions were still firmly opposed to a national minimum wage and legal intervention. Even so, the 1980s in the UK was not a conducive period for engaging policymakers in the UK on issues of low pay and inequalities. So I was fortunate to begin to work closely with international organisations, particularly with the EU at the time when it was establishing its commitment to gender equality and to promoting female employment, and also to be able to develop connections with the International Labour Organization in Geneva. So all of that's again, a personal experience. A third objective is our network is to facilitate younger researchers in making international connections at an early stage to support their research and open up their research agendas. Again, this was something I personally benefited greatly from at an early stage, and have been passionate about in encouraging my own researchers and doctoral students to also develop. But I'd also like to stress that in post-Brexit Britain, networks such as WorkNet International should help secure such opportunities into the future. Fourth, and in fact by no means least, the network aims to provide mutual support for an area of research that may be at risk in the changing world of higher education research. I think because work and employment research is not owned by a single discipline and is located in a wide range of different departments and institutions, there is a risk that people doing this kind of research feel marginalised or vulnerable as universities restructure, as they may not feel fully owned by the department in which they're located. In fact, often institutes get moved around between different faculties and etc. From the vantage point of my advanced age, I have, by all measures, I think, had a very successful career. It may seem odd that I'm going to stress marginalisation and vulnerability. However, I personally spent 13 years on insecure contracts before coming to Manchester. And when I realised it was necessary to leave the Cambridge Department of Applied Economics due to the changes taking place within economics, it was remarkably hard to find any jobs to apply for. I applied for one in 1984. The next time I applied for one was in 1988. This was part of this lack of support for universities in the 1980s. And I secured a post then at the Manchester School of Management, which was part of UMIST, which most of you know in the room, but not everybody, was a separate university to Manchester, although we merged over 20 years ago. This was all, of course, before the big expansion of business schools in the UK, but not all of these recognise the centrality of work and employment to business and management, something I find hard to understand, but nevertheless it's true. And I feel very fortunate that I secured the UMIST post 35 years ago against very strong competition. Most of my competitors also went on to be professors, and I feel very honoured that I was actually given this very rare post. And consequently, I took a very active role in the merger process of the two universities to ensure this topic was not squeezed out, as it was noticeably missing in the curriculum and core topics of the old Manchester Business School. So, you know, I'm very pleased to say that we were successful in this, as evidenced by the founding of the Work and Equalities Institute. And I'm personally very grateful to Manchester for having provided me with the support and the collegial environment in which I could develop my own research career, and more importantly, for this event, enable the research centres and institutes I've helped to found to thrive. So to conclude my introduction as why I personally was motivated to take the initiative to set up this network, a key issue as I move further towards retirement was how to ensure these opportunities for connections, collaborations and mutual support would remain embedded in the research environment. Many of the WorkNet representatives in this room are already connected through conferences, individual networks and associations, joint projects and the like. But the benefit of this network of institutions is that those connections should remain embedded between institutes and not severed by retirements or job changes of key researchers. Of course, the success of the network will still depend on the efforts and enthusiasms of individuals, but I hope by forming this network, we can foster both new connections and ensure interpersonal connections become more embedded in our research institutions. So that's the background to why we're here today and why we took this initiative. But I just want to also stress that obviously this initiative never happened without the enthusiastic response by the 30 members who then joined. So, yeah. So it's now my great pleasure to introduce the next speaker, Professor Duncan Ivison, the President and Vice-Chancellor of the University of Manchester. Duncan only joined Manchester last July from the University of Sydney, where he held a series of leadership roles, including most recently Deputy Vice-Chancellor for Research. Duncan is Canadian by birth and education to first degree level, but undertook his postgraduate degrees studies at the London School of Economics before moving to Australia. He's published extensively in his subject area of political and moral philosophy, a topic I think all of us in the field of work and employment will benefit from knowing more about. Look forward to hearing your remarks.
Thanks, Joe. It wasn't in the brief to talk about moral and political philosophy, but like, don't get me started, and I'm happy in the question time. And I did spend quite a bit of time in Sydney, which I'll mention in a minute, with some of your colleagues who also wanted to talk about social and political theory. So there's something about employment and work-related studies that draws us together. But look, it's a great pleasure to be here, and it's a real honor to be in a room with such a dynamic international core of colleagues. And let me welcome all of you who've come to Manchester, and I hope you're getting a sense of the wonderful dynamism and excitement of this city. That's one of the major reasons I'm here, and I hope you're getting a sense of the dynamism and excitement of this faculty. And it's great to have Ken and Fiona in the room, the dean and the head of the business school, and also my colleague Colette Fagan, who of course I know has some crossover research interests with you as well. And Colette is our vice president of research. As Jill said, I joined in July from the University of Sydney, where I'd been for 23 years. And one of the things that has really, I guess, been central to my own thinking about the future of universities and why I've decided, why I'm sort of committed to still being in these crazy roles rather than writing political philosophy, which some days seems like the best thing I should be doing, really, rather than running a university. But that's another discussion. I do think one of the defining characteristics of great 21st century universities in the next decade will be those who can find a way to accelerate the point between discovery, whether that's in the natural and physical sciences or the social sciences or humanities, however one defines discovery. It's going to be the institutions who can accelerate the point between discovery and impact. And in other words, how do we get our research and our teaching and our engagement activity out of the institution into the world more rapidly, more quickly? And why is it so important to do that? The main reason, I think, is because the world sort of demands it, and the communities we serve need it, and the cities we're embedded in require it. How do we unlock the work we're doing in more creative, more innovative, and frankly, sort of speedier ways, right? There are certain urgent issues that we just have to get to grips with if we're going to make it through the next decade, let alone flourish and prosper, which we all want ourselves and our fellow citizens to do. So I think that's going to be one of the defining characteristics of great 21st century universities. And I think it is the kind of work that you do, and the work that Jill and her colleagues do, and the work that I know Ken and others are trying to do in the business school, that really helps us think that through and helps us achieve that. It's going to be not just local and regional networks, but the global networks that you're creating through this organization and through this activity that is going to be so important. And I also think it's crucial in relation to the specific topic that you're working on and that you're researching. The world of work and employment is just being transformed in so many ways, whether it's the AI, revolution, whether it's the transition to net zero and the way in which we have to work in more sustainable ways. These are profound changes reshaping work and employment. The increasing sort of diversity of workplaces, the complexity of the sort of emotional and social labor that now sort of shapes our formal, in some ways, workplaces, and the reshaping of those distinctions between formal and informal work sectors. All of these are profound changes that we need our researchers, our business schools, our departments of sociology, political science, whatever it is, to be thinking about in new ways and to be finding ways to get their insights out into the community in more sort of direct, more sort of engaged ways than perhaps we ever have before. And so it's something that we're thinking a lot about in the context of our new university strategy that we're all thinking about at the moment. And I'm really delighted that Jill and colleagues and others in the room are thinking about how you respond to the policy agenda, not just in Manchester, not just in the Northwest, not just in the United Kingdom, but globally, as evidenced by the 30 or so institutes that you're linking, which is really quite extraordinary. Now, the actual Work and Equalities Institute here at the University of Manchester is already playing a crucial role in the Alliance Manchester Business School in terms of the contribution it makes to its sort of social impact agenda. The University of Manchester is distinctive also for having social responsibility as one of its core sort of pillars as an institution. And the work that the Institute is doing is a major contributor to that sort of vision, that theme of social responsibility, whether it's in relation to the SDGs, whether it's in relation to us being a good employer, whether it's in relation to the attributes we're trying to develop in our students. I think the work of the Institute is a crucial contributor to those ambitions for us as an institution. And as I said, it's also now linking globally, and that combination of a deep commitment to your place, but at the same time being also always looking outwards and always looking to connect with your global partners, again, I think is a manifestation of a commitment that the university is trying to sort of embody, and that the Institute is a wonderful exemplar of. And finally, I mean, there is kind of a personal connection for me, as Jill mentioned. I've been at the University of Sydney, and I was really delighted to be part of a group there that helped establish the Australian Centre for Gender Equality and Inclusion at Work, led by Ray Cooper and a range of colleagues there. And that has been quite a transformative initiative in the Australian context. So I've seen the power of this work and the importance of this work in a range of different domains and contexts. And I'm delighted that I've come to a university where we're able to make a significant contribution, as Jill has just outlined in her opening remarks. So delighted to be here. Congratulations on the network, and welcome to all of those who've joined us here for this event. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Duncan, for those thoughts. It does mean a great deal to us to have the support of the university for this endeavour. I'm now extremely pleased to welcome Sangheon Lee from the International Labour Organization to say a few words. Sangheon is the director of the International Labour Organization's Employment Department that leads ILO actions for promoting full and productive employment by developing integrated employment development and skills policies. Quite a challenge, that. Previously, he was Special Advisor to the Deputy Director General for Policy on Economic Social Issues and an Acting Director of the Research Department. Sangheon has written extensively on economic employment and labour issues and was founding organiser of the ILO's research conference on regulating for decent work. The Work and Equalities Institute was invited from the start of the conference in 2009 to join the steering committee of the RDW conference. And it has provided not only a great opportunity for dialogue between research and the ILO, but also a major opportunity for our early career researchers and doctoral students, as well as established academics, to become acquainted with the work of the ILO and what it is trying to do to reach the sustainable development goals of decent work for all and greater equality. We very much appreciate you taking your time out of your very busy agenda to come to Manchester to support this initiative.
Thank you so much for your invitation and also your very kind introduction. I'm very honored to be here with you, all distinguished academics and researchers. If I remember correctly, I was here to attend some event by the Work and Equality Institute. I think I don't know, it's 4 or 5 years back. Now I can see lots of progress the institute has made. I mean, having Jill as a very capable leader, I'm not surprised. So I want to congratulate on that, and also all the colleagues and the WEI. And she actually mentioned about Cambridge experience, and I have a little complaint there because I went to Cambridge when actually Jill gave up on Cambridge. So I suffered quite a bit of consequences. One, of course, I had to attend is the Professor Murray's actually infamous course on the optimal taxation when I had no income. I didn't have to pay any tax. Yeah, that actually you're actually the bit of the crash course of what you went through is a good reminder for me. And also, I'm very delighted to see many familiar faces and friends, and I can see the colleague Reagan here. I can see many of you somehow managed to escape aging. I one achievement actually. And also, I must admit I'm a bit jealous here. More seriously, on the behalf of the ILO, I really want to welcome the WorkNet, actually international, which brings together leading research institutions and in the area of the work and employment. I think let me be very clear here. This is not a usual official lip service, although I'm very good at that. I must say this network is really crucial and timely for many reasons. I just want to mention 2. First, I strongly believe in the interdisciplinary approaches, which is the heart of this network. I think you have already discussed quite extensively in the previous panel. So I don't want to actually tell you this audience in this room. Let me just mention one episode which I feel will resonate with you. Some of you may read the Mark Carney's book called The Value for Values. Mark Carney is the President Governor of the Bank of England and also the Bank of Canada, who seems to have a bit of strong political ambition at the moment. But I'm not talking about his book. His book actually started with one episode in the Vatican in Rome. With the Pope Francis, actually, he at some point, I think 5 years back, I believe, he actually brought together a bunch of the famous economists to figure out why we have a problem with the capitalism and what should be the future of the capitalism, and of course, all very nice dinner. And then actually he turned up without any announcement, and then actually just point to the wine on the dinner table. You see the very big long the dinner table, lots of wines, all kinds. And he said that this wine had 4 rich flavors, and that's why it actually enriched our senses. Then he said at the end of dinner, almost at the end of dinner, he said, you may have, if you want, have a grappa. Grappa is basically distilled, actually all the wines. But you know that if you drink the wine and grappa. From this, actually, the Pope Francis actually observed that, quote, humanity is many things: passionate, curious, rational, altruistic, creative, and self-interested. But the market is only one thing. self-interest. Market is humanity distilled. From there, he moved on, basically, he did conclude, your job, you famous economists, is to turn the grappa back into one. Turn the market back into humanity. This is not ideology, this is the reality, this is the job you have to do. Of course, this famous economist finished all the wines and grappa. Of course, they couldn't figure out what the problem it is. I think this is pretty much where we are actually when it comes to work and employment. Many of you already mentioned some of the issues already. There is right now, even now, there is no shortage of the attempts to distill the richness of work and narrow it down to some dubious numbers. Of course, some what we call mainstream economists and the politicians who are amplifying this actually ill-grounded messages, they're always taking a lead in this aggressive campaign. So in my view, we need to fight back. I mean, I can see the spirit in this room and to bring real people and humanity back to our research. And eventually, as we discuss it, to the policy actions and practice. In my view, only the interdisciplinary approach can do this job. By the way, don't get me wrong, I like wine and also I like grappa. So I'm not Catholic. So second is the launch of the WorkNet initiative can be better time. I don't know if it's intentional better, I don't know. It's very well timed. Jill has kindly mentioned the regulatory for distance work, which was launched immediately after global financial crisis in 2008. Probably you may remember those days. That's actually when the global forces actually gathered to strengthen, to force the countries to deregulate their labor market in the name of more jobs. Probably you may recall those days. At the time, we actually put together, RDW actually offered some good narrative analysis actually to debunk this, the regulatory drive. And now, probably as you know, yesterday was a very special day with where the global community was ushered into sort of are gathering to distill wine to grappa. So here comes the WorkNet International. The role of the research committee, in my view, is really crucial in understanding where we are, and also in suggesting how we'll have to move forward. Globally coordinate the research and action would be powerful in navigating this turbulent time. Definitely, we ILO will certainly benefit from so much from all this global network, and that's why we are very excited about this. That's why I came here, and I hope you will push us, the ILO, harder with your analysis and suggestions, because as you know very well, we are often find ourselves trapped in the institutional complacency. So let me conclude once again, congratulating Jill and the other friends and on this important initiative. And I very much look forward to working with you all. Thank you very much.
Has anybody got, we are running a little bit over time, but if there's any burning question or anybody would like to make any specific contribution, we can take one or two. Thank you.
It's not really a question, it's actually just congratulations because
Could you introduce yourself?
I'm sorry, I'm Fiona Riley, University of Sussex and the Digital Research Centre with Leeds and Manchester and Cambridge. I always want to congratulate you because I do think this is brilliant to bring together all these different research centres because I've come out of that generation that came in your footsteps along with Colette when we were PhD students here in Manchester 30 years ago. There's one thing you didn't mention in when you were giving why you're doing this. You were the first female professor at UMIST back in the 90s.
Oh.
And I think that's really important to recognise, and here's another first, so congratulations.
Endorsement. I have to point out to people that UMIST wasn't a science and technology university, wasn't a full humanities-based university, hence the first female professor. Anybody else like to say anything? Well, I think given we're out of time, I just wanted to say thank you very much, Sangheon, for those wonderful remarks. I shall remember the wine and grappa example forevermore. And I hope that the WorkNet will help very much with the work of the ILO. I think the ILO, given the possible funding problems and everything, will need support, as much support as it can, but I'm also very grateful for the support the ILO has provided to us as well. Before the end, I have two things to say. First, can I ask the WorkNet representatives and the speakers to stay in their seats because we're going to have a group photograph on the stage here, which we'll organise in a minute. And then I also wanted to record my thanks for the support I've received in this endeavour. First, to the members of the steering group for their support and enthusiasm from day one when we set out to form the network. I invited 6 or 7 institutes to start with, and we had a lot of discussions about whether it was worth doing and what we wanted to do, and then we formed a list of other institutes to invite. And so without their support, this wouldn't have happened. I also obviously like to thank the leadership of both the Faculty of Humanities and AMBS for their support, both financially, but not only that, their moral and enthusiastic support of the initiative. Finally, but by no means least, I'd like to thank my more immediate colleagues in the Work Inequalities Institute, particularly Matt Johnson and our director and Andrew Rafferty, and those who have helped with the high administrative burden, including Rebecca Allen and Jim Pendrell from the Comms Department and Kira Shaw from the Comms Department, Charlotte Hoyland, Kaylee Black, Chloe Best, and before her retirement, Lindsay Endell, and not forgetting those managing the AV equipment under particularly difficult circumstances today, as many of you know about, and those about to serve us all drinks outside, in the area immediately outside the lecture theatre. So really many thanks for your attendance, and perhaps we can, we're just going to move the furniture a bit and then we'll have the group photo, and then we'll join you very quickly outside for a drink.